So, Crimson Desert came out last week on the 19th and has garnered mixed reactions to say the least. There has been numerous amount of polarizing opinions on the game. Some people hate it and some people think it's the best game ever. But I'm not going to shame you for having either opinion, but after only 20 hours of playing it, I do have to say I'm thoroughly enjoying my time with it. While I don't think it's a Game of the Year contender, I do find myself really having a lot of fun with this title. And like I said, only after 20 hours of playtime, I'm still just in the first area of the game. Just because there's simply just so much to do, and it's one of those games that feels like a giant sandbox rather than a linear experience. And saying that, I know this game isn't for everyone, and it kind of fell victim to it being overhyped online, with the majority of people thinking it was going to be more like a Witcher or Red Dead type game with a very interesting narrative and all these interesting quests. But it's almost as it's the exact opposite of that, because the story here is, I mean, it's alright, it's pretty tame. The main character itself, Cliff, looks like a bargain bin type main character, meaning that they just made a typical hero protagonist. So he really isn't something that will stand out of the crowd, but he also is not someone overly annoying saying like one-liners every 2 seconds while exploring the world. I just wish they could have maybe made a creative character for this game. I think that would have been a little bit better, but you know, what can you do? They made the decision they made. I think this game is made for people like me. When they get into an open world game, they do everything but the main quest. Like, whenever I play Oblivion or Cyberpunk or any game like that, I find myself doing all the side quests first, and then I go back to the main quest whenever, and it's just insanely easy because I'm just so geared up and over leveled at that point that I'm just moving on to the next area, and so I can do more side stories or side quests. And that's exactly what Crimson Desert feels like. Kind of like the main storyline is just like an afterthought, but the exploration should be your main focus. So once again, if you're looking for a game with gripping story, this isn't it. But if you're looking for a game along the lines of Dragon's Dogma, where the more interesting parts of the game is setting out to explore the world, and whatever you come across in your path, you have to deal with, this is the game for you. Because this game does something that has been sorely missing in gaming, by not telling the player jack shit. It's kind of like how I felt when playing the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver Remastered, where it's just something akin to older games, where they just give you the world, they tell you maybe a few mechanics, and then they're just like, okay, have fun. Like, handing you the keys to an old school muscle car on a track and telling you, let her rip. While you have no concept of how to drive a manual shift car, because you will be overwhelmed by the amount of different things that you can do. It's kind of like the game itself is almost on a breakneck speed to explain everything it has to offer mechanic-wise, then sending you out into the open world and just saying, good luck. Kinda like an 18-year-old setting off to a dorm in a university that has been living under their parents' roof for the past 18 years, only to find out there's a lot of things to learn by living on your own. Because once you get into that open world, it doesn't tell you anything. So that's another point where I think gamers just gave up on this game as well. But for me, I have been thoroughly enjoying my time with this, and feel accomplished when I actually just randomly discover something, like, for instance, seeing a window I can interact with, the second story of a manor, climbing up the side of the house to walk into a room, seeing a treasure chest, and finding a weapon better than the one I had from beating a main boss earlier on. And it's just little stuff like that that is just very rewarding and showing you what you should actually be doing, which is exploring the area. Instead of beelining for quests, you'll be rewarded more for your curiosity by just exploring the game and seeing what it has to offer. Like finding side quests on poster boards throughout towns where villagers need help, or having mini games like archery or even fist fighting games, which that one has been my favorite, by the way. Also, let's talk about the graphics in this game, because yeah, they're pretty wondrous, and the draw distance is the main attraction here. Just seeing the large vistas in the distance, and knowing you can travel to them eventually, is a great feeling as well. And one feeling I haven't felt since the days where I was playing Elden Ring, where if you see something in the world off in the distance, you can eventually work your way to get to it, which is what an open world game should be to me. And Stuff like that just shows your natural progression in the game. Because throughout the game, going to another area and being able to see the area that you once were in the distance just means that you're naturally progressing through the game. And I will say the performance for me has been pretty solid on my i7 processor, 2070 RTX graphics card with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I've been able to maintain at least above 40 FPS without frame gen and over 60 with it on medium graphics settings. And to me, honestly, this feels more like a game that was meant for a PC rather than a console. But if you're playing it on console, let me know how the performance is for you. Now, moving on to the controls, and I know you've been seeing that meme of the controller with all those buttons, and that's how it's used to describe the controls of this game. And I have to say, I really don't see the complaints that have been said about the controls. Sure, there are a lot of button combos, especially for combat, but not something that I wouldn't see in something like an Arkham game or a Spider-Man game or any other game that has button combos for combat, because usually the button combos are just 1 or 2 buttons. I will agree that having the jump button and the interact button on the same button can be tedious, especially having to wait until the game can recognize you're actually trying to pick something up instead of bunny hopping around. But outside of that, I think the controls are pretty tame. And yeah, they might take a minute or two to get used to, but once you do get used to them, they feel really good, and it feels more secondhand than anything. My other complaint is that menu navigation is a little bit weird. Well, because it can be a chore trying to equip something or unequip something when doing various activities like mining, chopping down a tree, or even fishing. Once again, I can see why some players say this game's controls are off, especially since the PC version insists on you playing on a controller. So for anyone that's playing on mouse and keyboards, also let me know how the controls are feeling for you on the mouse and keys. I'd be interested to see what you think. Going through some menus, just trying to decide what you can do, honestly, it becomes like a little bit secondhand. Kind of feels more like Red Dead with the weapon wheel, and you're just cycling through the weapon you want to choose. Same thing with this, you kind of just cycle through the different weapons. If you want to use the axe, the pickaxe to mine. If you want to use the fishing rod, you just have to cycle through it. The most annoying part, I think, about the menu so far is the lantern. Just turning it on and off is kind of weird. Now let's get on to the combat. And yeah, I have been loving this combat, and it feels very fast paced, and it's clearly made for you to take on multiple enemies at once. But what isn't made to take on multiple enemies at once is the camera, because sometimes there'll be so many enemies trying to attack you that the camera will often be fixated on the closest person, and you have to roll around to kind of get more of a better angle to the other 20 people that are attacking you. Also, the archers in this game are the bane of my existence, so much that I find myself dipping and dodging until I take out all of them first before I go into more of the melee enemies. But as far as the combat itself, I really have no complaints, because once again, once you get into the flow of it, button combinations start to become secondhand, and after a few skill upgrades, you'll be able to do some crazy shit. It's always fun to RKO some dude in the middle of a fight, for you to just move on to the next enemy, slashing them to bits. And the parry in this game is pretty solid as well. I will say it's a pretty forgiving timing-wise. The window's a little bit more forgiving, not like a super tight window, but you'll find in a lot of games with a parry system. But nonetheless, the parry system is pretty solid. But I will say, there isn't a various amount of combat options, not like in an Elder Scroll or Dark Souls-like game, where you can pick to either be an archer, some type of rogue, or mage. Here, it's just mainly melee weapons with the sword and the shield, or two-handed weapons. There is a bow, but it's more of like an afterthought, not really a main weapon or main tool you would use in combat. And hand-to-hand combat, though, it is a very viable option as well, which I think is a cool touch, and it adds a little bit more variety to combat situations. But so far, the enemy variety is just, well, bandits, but just different types of factions of bandits. Although I can't really complain about that, since, like I said, I'm only in the first area still, so I'm not totally going to say there isn't enemy variety, but for the most part, at least for the first portion of the game, it just seems to be bandits right now. And the boss fights so far have been pretty easy. Although I will say it seems like hitboxes are kind of buggy, because there have been many a times, especially on the one boss in the quarry, you know what I'm talking about, where it seems like I dodge a move only for me to still be hit by it. And it just kind of reminds me of the Dark Souls 2 hitboxes, where you clearly dodge something, but you still get hit by it sometimes. And speaking of that boss that was in the quarry, that was the only boss I really died to a couple of times, just because I didn't really realize until after I beat him that you can stun him by hitting him with the forced pawn strike move you have before he drills on the ground, which would have made the fight a little bit easier, but the fight is still beatable nonetheless. I am aware that there is a hard boss right around the corner, known as the Reed Devil. From where I am at in the story right now, my opinion could change on these boss fights, whether they get more difficult or whether they still remain somewhat easy to me. I will say the difficulty spikes in this game is mainly experienced by players that are just doing the main story questline and not really exploring. Because like I said, this game is all about exploring, and you will definitely be awarded with better gear for exploring. Also, doing side quests is a must, especially for inventory management, which is another big complaint that I have been seeing, but so far it hasn't been so much for me because I have 120 slots in my inventory. That's because every side quest that you do adds around 3 to 5 inventory slots. So the fact that I've been doing a lot of these side quests and they just give me a lot of slots just means I really have an abundance of inventory slots, so I'm not really running out of space. But I will say the lack of a storage chest is critical, because there are some food items I would like to put away, and some items in general I like to put away, but can't yet because it just seems that they don't have a storage chest in the game yet. But it seems that they have been addressing that, or have addressed it in their latest patch or their upcoming one. But speaking of patches, it seems that the devs at Pearl Abyss are taking feedback seriously and are swiftly putting up patches to address issues and bugs in the game, which is a really good sign. Hopefully it will continue and not be one of those situations where they address issues for the first few months and then after that they kind of just sort of abandon the game, and any issue that pops up after that several months down the line, they just leave it up to you. But all in all, I think this game suffers mostly from the toxicity we have seen online from both sides. That be the people bashing it for being something different and not what they expected, and for the people just, I guess, straight up hating the game, and the people that won't let anybody criticize anything about the game in general and vehemently defend the game even if you have valid complaints. Which, let's be honest, is a main problem in gaming in general. I think that people are really just quick to make up their mind whether something is good or something is not, or whether a game is for them or rather that it's not for them, rather than letting it kind of just take you on a journey or take you on an adventure and just making up your mind within the first hour saying like, oh, this game sucks, oh, this game is not for me, or oh, I like this, I can see where it's going. And this game is not afraid of the slow burn approach method, which is definitely severely lacking in gaming, but with so many games being more streamlined and hand-holding than ever before, I can see why a lot of it is getting backlash. Do I want every game to be like this, where it's a slow burn approach and it takes maybe hours and hours for you to kind of just really understand and explore the game? No. But do we need more of it? Yes. Does every game need to have it? No. But it is a welcome addition because, like I said, it kind of gives you that old school feel to how games used to be back in the late 90s, early 2000s type of games. I also understand with there not really being a hook or anything, and asking for $70 in price, some people want there to be a reason to come back, other than just exploring a world or being promised the game gets better and better after some amount of time. I understand that if you're not willing to buy into that. So, what is my final opinion on the game? I do think it's worth your money. If you are looking for a vast open world to explore, you're definitely going to get your money's worth with the time played and the time you put into this game. But if you're someone that's just looking to kill a couple weeks before the next big release drops, or just something to hold you over for a bit, this probably isn't it, because you have to be in the right mindset, I think, for you to want to play this game. Like I said, there's not really a big hook overall story-wise. There's just the big hook in this game is, hey, if you want to explore, we got a sandbox for you to explore, and it pretty much comes down to that. if you are falling into that category, I'd say get into your backlog of games and wait for this game to go on sale until you have some more downtime, or for some of the things in this game to be ironed out a bit more, because this game does ask for a lot of time. And if you're looking for a game to pick up that won't take too much time to beat, or something that is easy for you to pick up, you're best looking somewhere else, because this definitely is not the game. If you're looking for more of a game that challenges you and has a learning curve and that you want to get into and want to explore, this is right up your alley. Also, if you're looking for more gaming content, subscribe. I do have another video in the works about a game that I think flew under a lot of people's radar, and a lot more people should be playing. So be on the lookout for that. Also, be on the lookout for more content from me in April, because that month is looking to be jam-packed with new releases throughout the whole month. So sub if you want to see more videos like this and reviews and other gaming news. But that is all I have for you today. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.